Hi, I'm Eric Odell, the Species Conservation Program Manager for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I'm here to share some background information on wolf management aspects for the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Wolf Restoration and Management Plan. I will briefly cover information about recommendations from the 2004 Wolf Working Group, management strategies in other states, including a brief discussion on some of their monitoring and reporting techniques, recovery and management thresholds, and issues to be addressed in the current plan, and ultimately, what we want to know from you, the public. Please note that at this point in time, we do not have a draft wolf restoration and management plan available. After we receive the public input, CPW staff, along with the input from our technical working groups and our stakeholder advisory groups, will prepare a draft plan that will be released for public review and input later on. In 2004, a wolf working group of experts was convened to provide recommendations for management of wolves that migrate into Colorado. And these recommendations formed the basis for CPW's current wolf management plan. It includes the following key points. The plan fundamentally determined that wolves should be allowed to live with no boundaries where they find habitat throughout the state. If wolves cause problems or when negative impacts occur due to wolves, the issues should be addressed on a case-by-case basis using management tools and damage payments to resolve those problems, including the allowance of take or killing of wolves to manage depredations. Wolves should, over time, be brought into the existing management programs and policies for other carnivore species in the state, such as mountain lions and black bears. CPW should work cooperatively with other agencies, other organizations in the private sector as well to achieve wolf management goals in a very proactive manner. And the plan ultimately recommended that funding for wolf management should come from sources other than hunting license sales. Other states have experience in managing wolves, and we've benefited from their lessons learned. All of the reintroductions of wolves in the other states have involved the Federal Endangered Species Act experimental non-essential designation, which is also known as the 10J designation. Ultimately, what this does is provides management flexibility to address conflict on an otherwise federally protected species. And so while wolves are not federally protected at the moment under the Endangered Species Act, the gray wolf may be relisted at some point in the future. And developing tools to maintain the management flexibility is viewed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife as an important component to our restoration program. The management of wolves in other states involves both lethal and non-lethal tools. So for monitoring, it's important to monitor these populations, and a variety of tools are used. Radio and GPS collars are used, cameras, howling surveys, tracking surveys, and many other different techniques are used to monitor wolves in other states. Fundamentally, dens are monitored to document recruitment into the population, and population estimates are made at the end of the calendar year, generally. So recovery and management thresholds are going to be an important aspect over this plan. A population threshold is when the population is larger than some number, which is yet to be determined for Colorado. We have not made any decisions on this at this point in time. For example, that number could be the number of animals or the number of breeding pairs, some metric like that. Identifying these thresholds for the state delisting recovery will be an important component, an important outcome of this planning effort. An example of the recovery plan in the northern Rocky states of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming for federally delisting occurred in 1987 by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and it identified a recovered wolf population as being at least 10 breeding pairs of wolves for 3 consecutive years in each of 3 recovery areas, which was Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. Now, a population of this size would compromise approximately 300 wolves. That's the bare minimum in that area. Management thresholds are a little bit different than recovery thresholds, and those are points where management flexibility and management strategies may change as the population grows. So as an example, we will have to identify a threshold to identify the point at which gray wolf reintroduction was a success, and at which point active reintroduction is no longer necessary and the wolf population can grow on its own. The current wolf restoration and management planning process will address many issues, such as the management principles and the goals for wolves in Colorado. We'll address the population levels that may trigger different management strategies in the state. We'll address the responses in ungulate populations, for example, elk, deer, and moose, or other metrics to inform wolf management. identify reliable funding sources that can be used to support reintroduction, monitoring, depredation payment, and management of wolves throughout the state. The plan will also address the considerations for the possible relisting of the gray wolf under the U.S. Endangered Species Act, the Federal Endangered Species Act. And please do note that the development of prescriptive management of conflict wolves with regards to livestock and funding sources for damage payments is further discussed in our livestock interactions component. To inform the wolf management aspects of the wolf restoration and management plan, Colorado Parks and Wildlife would like to hear from you, the public, on many of these following questions. What wolf population and other biological information would indicate that the gray wolf restoration program was a success? What suggestions do you have for management strategies to make gray wolf restoration in Colorado as successful as possible? What suggestions do you have for monitoring? What suggestions do you have for funding gray wolf management? And what concerns or questions about wolf management do you have? Feedback can be provided on the online comment form available at the web link that you see on this slide, www.wolfengagementco.org. You can also visit that site to learn about other planning topics, such as the engagement process, education and outreach, wolf restoration, and livestock interactions, and to check out the schedule of the public events happening in summer 2021. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.